that was a bit flash, wasn't it?
It was.
We've got some new technology since I was here last. Hello, everybody. It's Cheryl Arkle. This is a special segment today. Today we've got a guest writer, Adam Thompson. This is Adam's book. It's called Born Into This. Welcome, Adam.
Thanks very much, Cheryl. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's an absolute pleasure, actually. So Adam and I are going to do something a bit different. We're going to have a conversation about Adam's book, Born Into This. And I know that a lot of you have been waiting very, very patiently for this segment. Sarah, hello. Tracy, hello. All the comments are coming through. Welcome everyone. Mihi, hi. Now, if you've got any questions, it's a bit like, what are you reading? If you've got any questions, feed them through the comments and we will try, let me just turn this off, and we will try to answer them. Well, I'm sure somebody will answer them. Okay, so firstly, I'm going to introduce Adam, and then Adam is going to tell us a little bit about the book. Okay, so Adam is an Aboriginal writer from Launceston, a Pakana man, is that right?
Pakana, yeah.
Pakana man. He has won several local writing awards and has been published by the Australian Dictionary of Biography, Kill Your Darlings and the Griffith Review. Adam is passionate about his community and has worked for the Tasmanian Aboriginal Centre for almost 20 years, caring for Aboriginal land and heritage and preserving community history. In addition to short fiction, Adam has written for television and performance art. This is his debut, Born Into This, an engaging, thought-provoking collection of short stories that addresses universal themes, identity, racism, heritage destruction from a wholly original perspective. Welcome, welcome. I mean, this book has been out now for quite a while, and I know that a lot of you out there have read it. Let me just go through some of these hellos, and then we'll ask you to talk about your book. Jasmine says hello. Judy says hello. Tracy, I bought the book and I'm looking forward to reading it. Oh, thanks, Tracy. Louise says welcome, Adam. Caroline says hi, everybody. Okay, keep those questions coming through. Adam, can you talk to me a little bit about the book?
Absolutely, and thanks for all your welcomes and comments, everyone. So this is a collection of short fiction that I wrote over several years. I'm very proud of this. The setting is all in Tasmania, in Lutruwita, Tasmania. And it's contemporary Aboriginal themed short fiction. And it was released in March this year by the University of Queensland Press. And look, I've had nothing but good feedback from the book. And I'm really grateful to Better Reading for all their support and for this today.
Yeah, and all the readers out there, I mean, you know, they are just such wonderful readers, the Better Reading community, and they have really been supportive of many Australian books and Australian story, and this is one of them. Okay, so it is a collection of short story. Can you describe to us where Adam and I spoke on a podcast recently, and one of the questions I asked you on the podcast was, why put pen to paper now? And you said to me that you've been telling stories all your life. Talk to me about that and storytelling.
Well, I've always appreciated storytelling and hearing a story, even going back to, you know, being a kid, you know, on the mat at the end of the day in primary school, and the teacher, you know, reading some Roald Dahl book or something, and just that magic feeling you get kind of just sitting there, you know, listening to someone telling a story. And I guess through my life, all my life, I've been a reader, and I just loved hearing stories and really drawing the details out, you know, of people when they're telling me a story. And I like telling stories. As an adult, I've kind of always been telling stories with my friends and people when we're mutton birding and that sort of thing. And, you know, I just kind of felt, you know, I was in my early 40s, and I kind of felt like it was the right time for me to start writing these down. I was inspired by some of my good friends and brothers in my community who were starting to do the same through different formats. One of them is a playwright, and he wrote this fantastic play called The Season. His name's Nathan Maynard, and I kind of felt a bit left behind, you know, like we were always talking about story and reading, and then when he did that, you know, I thought, no, look, it's time for me get cracking and get my work out. So, yeah, that's how the stories started to come together for this.
So Jane says, what was the first story that you wrote in Born Into This?
That's an easy one. That was Honey, which also features in the compilation Flock that Ellen Van Neerven has put together through the University of Queensland Press. That is actually kind of being released, I think, around this time. So yeah, Honey was that was the story, and it was first published by Kill Your Darlings online, and it's a story about, you know, an Aboriginal guy is helping his so-called mate move some beehives, and I guess, you know, I was inspired to write that story through some personal experience I've had with doing a similar job, and I always wondered what would happen if you're in an old ute and it's loaded up with beehives and you had an accident. So, you know, I kind of weaved that, you know, curiosity into the story, and just the rest just kind of came naturally.
Was it difficult? Was it a difficult transition of being, like, say, an oral storyteller to actually a short fiction writer or a short story writer? Did you find that process difficult, or did it?
Not at all. I found it. I found it a lot easier to tell a story through writing, I think, because I'm not really a naturally outgoing person. I was a really shy kid, and I still am to an extent. So I feel comfortable telling stories around people I know, but not necessarily in front of a crowd or anything like that. But so, you know, when you're alone at a computer and you've got, you know, this time and space and this energy to write this, you know, these stories, it came quite easily, actually. The hardest bit was, you know, being disciplined enough to kind of sit down and do it. But once I was at the computer and that it just flows.
It just came out. Okay, everyone, it's Cheryl Arkle. I'm talking to Adam Thompson about his new book, Born Into This. I know many of you out there have read it and loved it, so this is a great opportunity to ask Adam some questions. Linda, hi Linda. She said, I loved your book. Do you have one story that's a particular favourite?
Yeah, hi Linda. Thanks for the question. I have two stories that are my favourites. I mean, I like all of them, of course, but there's the title story, Born Into This. I particularly like that one, and one of the stories towards the end is Time and Tide. I really like that. It's you know, it's about mutton birding and this question of what happens if the birds don't come back. For people who don't know, mutton birding is a cultural activity of Tasmanian Aboriginal people. It's been, you know, ongoing since the dawn of time, and we still go mutton birding.
Can you describe what that is? Because I had to look it up after you.
Yeah, okay. So the mutton bird season is on. It's just wrapping up now. It goes from the end of March all through April and to the early May, and basically it's when we go to the islands off the northwest or northeast, and we harvest mutton bird chicks to eat. It's something that, you know, our tribal women did back in the days.
So they're all eaten. It's for food.
Oh, absolutely. And
yeah.
And there's other byproducts too from the mutton birds. You know, the oil that we collect that's in their stomach, and people used to make things from the down and the feathers from the birds, but it doesn't really happen that much anymore. But there's certainly an opportunity for someone to.
How big are the birds?
Kind of look. I mean, the chicks are kind of fat and fluffy and lovely, making me hungry just thinking about it. Right. But I guess an adult, when you look at an adult bird, it kind of looks like a sooty kind of dark grey seagull.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So they're about that size.
Yeah.
Okay. Holly says, do you have plans to extend any of the characters? That's a really good question, into a full-length novel.
Hi, Holly. I've had that question before. Not really. I've got a novel that I've started, and it's not based on any of the characters in here. So I don't have any plans to do that, but, you know, there's certainly potential there.
You can never say never. Never say never.
That's right.
You talk about identity, obviously, racism, heritage destruction. There's so much there. Talk to us about the importance of culturally seeing yourself in stories, because, you know, as you know, I'm Lebanese Australian, and it, you know, I remember very clearly when I first read Looking for Alibrandi by Melina Marchetta. The first time I read that, I couldn't believe that there was someone like me in a book. because she's Italian Australian, and she's my age, and I really felt a connection in books and stories that I had never felt before.
Okay. Well, it's funny. I read a review the other day. It was in the Australian Book Review, and the reviewer, I kind of felt a bit psychoanalyzed, to be honest. It said that my male characters are all kind of understated and shy, and my my female characters are, activist type and full on and strong. And when I read that review, I thought, well, it's probably true in the sense like that's kind of like how I am, even though this is fiction. There's a lot of, I guess, myself in there. And the women in my community, very, very strong, very staunch and outspoken, very, very strong women in my community. So that was an interesting observation.
And how important do you think it is for younger Aboriginal people to see and to read stories like this?
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, out of Tasmania, there isn't really a lot of this kind of stuff. I mean, we've got this fantastic theatre productions by Nathan Maynard, and there's some older poetry and theatre and prose, from previous generations, and Jimmy Everett and Karen Brown and others. And there's some great poets, and Tanya Maynard and Luana Towney and others. And I hope I haven't forgotten anyone there. So, and I think it's really important too with people's identity. I do talk about identity in here a lot. And
you do.
I mean, we live as Aboriginal people. We live in a society. We've got our own values as Aboriginal people, but we share this country, and we have to kind of all live together. And so you have these interesting scenarios that come from that. And one of the stories in here talks about this elder who takes these kids on a survival camp, and he's explaining to them about how some of those elements of traditional living, and he says a line in there about these kids might be townified or kind of assimilated, but they have to learn what separates them from their Aussie mates. So identity is important to have instilled in you as a youth, and I kind of hope that in a way my book does that with our youth that read it.
Absolutely. Do you know, I was born here, and you guys might have heard me talk about this before, but I've been back to Lebanon a couple of times in my adult years. But most recently, when I went back, which was maybe 10 years ago, the customs officer looked at my passport, stamped it, and said, "Welcome to your homeland." And it had as you can see now, it had a profound effect on me. And it changed my experience for the time that I was there. And all I could think about was that I belonged. I felt that I belonged so much because the people were like me. And that feeling is just so comforting. You can't deny people that, can you?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's, being part of a community is such a powerful thing. And,
isn't it?
You really... I don't know. It's you really get a sense of belonging, and I think until you find your community in whatever way you do that, and however that is, it's a powerful thing, and it helps you kind of get on with your life,
doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, there's a few questions that I'm just going to. Hanidi Nasa, I feel you, Cheryl, in regards to feeling seen. I'm sure you do, and I'm sure there's so many of you out there that have had the same experiences as Adam and I. Jane Tara, I gave your book to my sons to read, 16 and 21 years old, and then the three of us had excellent conversation about the stories and our responses to some of the stories. We laughed, we felt anger, we felt discomfort. It was great to see how each of us responded to different stories. Have you had feedback from younger people? That's a good question.
Yeah, I've had some. Especially people from my community, they're kind of, I love the stories, and I could relate to them. So I felt a lot of pride in that. I like to think that young people in my community can relate to them, and also people outside my community who said, thanks for saying that, thanks for telling that story. And I've had that response a fair bit, that story needed to be told.
Linda says, Descendants was one of my favourite stories. The character of Dorothy really resonated with me. Can you tell us a little bit about how she came to you?
Dorothy, yeah. So she's a staunch black girl going to school who is an outcast, but really outspoken about her heritage, and unfortunately she's she has these people who want to claim to be Aboriginal and they're not, and that she feels it's her role to kind of expose them and to kind of fix that situation. And unfortunately, she doesn't have the backing of the school or the authority. And I guess that's a metaphor for what's happening in Tasmania with identity, where you've got a state government who basically say, look, if you say you're Aboriginal, that's enough for us. But it's not enough for our community. We want to protect the authenticity of our community. And, if you want to say you're Aboriginal, you have to be Aboriginal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, you continue to set your work in Tassie. This is Kate. How important is it to you that young Tasmanians see themselves reflected in literature? Well,
first, I'd love to just, Kate is a mentor of mine, Kate Gordon, and, I'm really happy that she's tuning into this. I will for the moment, absolutely. Someone asked me the other day, because there seems to be this kind of trend of writing about Tasmania, if I write about Tasmania because it's kind of trendy at the moment. And I said, no, I write about Tasmania because it's all I know.
Well, it's your homeland.
It is my homeland. And so yes, Kate, I definitely will be writing about Tassie. There might be some scenes in my work that are outside Tasmania, but I just will continue to write about my homeland for sure.
Okay, Helena says, so pleased to see more of these stories surfacing now with new writers, new perspective. Thank you. Hanandi, she says, such incredible stories, Adam. I'm in awe of your storytelling, the feelings you have evoked in me.
Cool.
Also, she's up to the story about sponsoring an Aborigine, and I had to put it down. How did that story come about?
Oh, it was just one of those things. I mean, a lot of stories come from that, those ideas of what if, and I can't remember what event it was that inspired me, but I just remember thinking, thinking about how, people sponsor, people from other countries who don't, who are having a tough time, and that person who's sponsoring them. And I thought, I wonder what would happen, one day if you had a government that was that way inclined, that they would make the taxpayer sponsor, personally sponsor Aboriginal welfare recipients in a way that makes people resent Aborigines. And I guess in a way, that's reflective of how I feel about what's happening with Aboriginal people in Australia and how we're treated. So, it really just came about from that what if. And like, if you've read the book, you see I like to have a lot of fun with things, and I thought it would be an entertaining story and something that would make people think about where we're going.
And also humour, injecting humour into stories that are have deep meaning and are deeply moving. I mean, humour, I think, helps the reader does through the understanding and the process of story.
Absolutely.
Don't you think? Yeah.
Yeah, really. And I mean, there's some tough themes and subjects in here. And I mean, at the end of the day, I do like to kind of feel like I'm passing on some messages and educating people in a way, but I don't want to be didactic. And at the end of the day, again, people are picking up books to read to be entertained.
They are.
So, you've got to add a bit of humour in there to balance it out, I think, and I've tried to do that.
I really, really like the cover. So tell me what you're working, or tell us all what you're working on next.
So
you said a novel.
I'm writing a novel, yeah,
mm-hmm.
and Kate, yeah, it's set in Lutruwita, Tasmania. It's different than this, in that obviously it's a novel, it's a longer form, but it's probably less about themes and more about a very interesting plot and
a good story.
A good story, and you won't be able to put it down.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, that's what we love here.
Yeah.
Jane says, "How did it feel to hold your book in your hands?" Yeah, that's a good question, actually.
Amazing.
I love the cover. I keep going to put it over your face and realise, no, we should keep going.
It looks better than my face.
Now, how did you feel when you picked it up?
Well, it's surreal. I mean, I'm very new to all this, and When I started out writing, I didn't really intend to write a book. I was just writing stories. It wasn't until I selected for the Next Chapter initiative through the Wheeler Centre that I actually had the idea to have a book come out of that. And when I was sent the advanced reader copy from UQP, I was pretty stoked. I would show everyone that would look.
You're at the bus stop here. Have a look at my book. You're at the train.
Yeah, carried it everywhere with me.
Strangers, yeah.
But when I got the final copy with that beautiful cover art from Judith
Isn't
Rose
it
Thomas,
gorgeous? It is really stunning.
It is, and every time I see it in the shop, it just stands out on the shelf, and I'm so proud. And I like to take a photo of the book, and I feel like such a goose standing there with a camera taking a photo of my own book. And I've actually asked my friends to go and do it for me because I just didn't want to be that person.
I think you can be that person. You should go in and sign a few books too for the booksellers. I think they'd love that.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm very proud to sign this.
Tracy said the cover is beautiful. I got the download, but I imagine I might have to now go and buy a physical copy. You do, Tracy. Hanadi says the wit is on point right throughout. It's brilliant. And she says again, it's a really beautiful cover.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we're going to let you go. Adam's here for the Sydney Writers Festival, and do you want to plug some of your events?
Absolutely. So I was lucky enough to be on stage with Tony Birch on Wednesday doing a student session with Declan Fry. That was great, talking about short stories. But coming up, we've got Your Favourite's Favourite, and I'm again very privileged to have been selected by Melissa Lukashenko to talk to her.
We love Melissa.
About this book and my work, and then I'm going to be on the panel for Flock, which is a collection of First Nations stories that's only just come out, and it was edited by Ellen Van Neven, who I'm absolutely in awe of and a huge fan. So I'm very lucky to be involved in those panels, and extremely grateful to be at the festival and to be here today.
Well, thank you so much, Adam. Now, for more information, apparently some of your events are sold out. Hanadi just told us.
Cool.
Anyway, there you go. But get yourself, if you're in Sydney, go to the Sydney Writers Festival. I was there yesterday. I was hanging out all day and I had such a great time. So many great events, so many great free events as well. And even if you don't have tickets, there are some walk-ins as well. But it was just a great place to hang out because you run into authors, you run into all sorts of people. Thank you so much for coming in to see us today. This is the book. We're going to hopefully get you back for your fiction book.
Yep.
And that's it from us. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see you next week for What Are You Reading?
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you.